All right, good morning, everybody. It's 8:30. We'll call this morning's meeting to order. Our first item is the approval of the agenda, and we do have one agenda addition today, and that's a request to fill the vacancy for a financial worker due to a resignation.
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard today on items not on the agenda? Citizens to be heard. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the bills and vouchers.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. And there must be a train somewhere.
Somewhere on the overhead.
What's that?
I'll say somewhere on the overhead between here and Highway, I doubt it. Mr. Chair, I was going to make a request too. When you added the addition, Rhonda was going to be a few minutes later on. I see Larry's here, but she'd asked, and I placed her on the agenda. I told her after the corrections position, so after 8:45.
Okay, for Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and we're waiting on Dave?
Yes.
All right. Yes, so we might as well do that. Commissioner Mojo, would you like to give us committee reports?
Thank you. Last week I attended the Planning Commission meeting where there was a proposed zoning map amendment for the Barnesville watershed protection area, and it's something that, or not watershed, wellhead protection plan. It significantly reduced the size of that management map. It was requested by Barnesville. It was also something that the SWCD had been in the process with them, so it was passed with unanimous consent to bring it to this board, I believe. So we should be seeing that soon. There was another issue, an ongoing property line disputes in Baker, something that I think I've updated a couple of you on. It just kind of is in the legal process now, and the landowner had come to ask for an extension, but because of how the process goes, he will need to follow suit with that. So a few more residents were there with concerns about that. And then we had a draft discussion on a renewable energy ordinance. And it's something that will mirror what Clay County did in regards to the wind energy ordinance. It will be something that will apply to solar facility proposals. So we did create a subcommittee for that. I volunteered Kevin for that.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. Anyhow, so we did discuss that. And then yesterday I attended the Lakeland Mental Health Center meeting in Fergus Falls. We had a finance committee report. The budget for 2018 for the agency looks great. They continue to see healthy margins in their budget. Also talked about the addition of some services with Clay County in regards to the mental health facility that we're putting into the correctional facility, which if you recall, we got a grant for a big portion of that. So talked about that. And then key performance indicators. If you recall, there's been some problems in regards to access times for psychiatry appointments, upwards of 30 days. And that kind of is a psychiatrist shortage in the area, but Detroit Lakes just put on or hired a new so that we can recommend people to go to Detroit Lakes because there's only a day or two wait for those accesses. So in the meantime, there is, you can get in to see a psychiatrist within 1 or 2 days, but you'd have to go 40 minutes away. So we're trying to mitigate that problem. It's something that is, I think, always going to be an issue. And then the other thing is that the Moorhead site, I believe, had a 9% margin in their budget for last month. So Moorhead continues to be really healthy. So that's a good thing since we use so much of their services, and talked a little bit about Minnesota legislation as that kind of goes through. There's a lot of bills that could determine some big issues for Lakeland, but other than that, that concludes my reports.
All right, thank you. Dave, we are ready for you if you want to come up. Good morning.
Morning.
All right, good morning. You have, agenda item number 1 is the sponsoring agency resolutions for the LRIP grants.
We've been in communication with some of the small cities and even one of the townships in Clay County, and they're interested in putting together a local road improvement program grant in which all 3 of them need sponsor resolutions from the county. We've got one from the city of Sabin, we got one from the city of Holly, and Lisa is here in the crowd with us. And then we've got one from Oakport Township for our 15th Avenue North, where
So you're able to get that.
yeah, yep, so we worked with them, we're still in the process of helping them fill out the application, needs to be in by December 1st, so
Okay.
it's about 90% done or so, so this is kind of the last little bit. We'll kind of work with them a little bit on an engineer's estimate and a location map, and we'll send her in and we'll see how they fare.
Did that one come out of those discussions, the small city?
Yes.
Okay. That just, again, shows the importance of the dialogue and
Mhm. That and the fact that when we, in our highway tracking committee, when Dave brought up these availability of these grant dollars, we right away suggested that we, yeah.
Well, the 15th Avenue North one,
Yeah.
we've been discussing that. I was out at a meeting in Dilworth over a month ago, and they were talking about that then. In fact, a couple months ago already, so.
I think we're-
The 15th Street North in Holly, how far north does that go? Does that go past the city development up to the section line? Do you know? How far are we going with that?
I can share with you. It does not go to the city limits, but it goes past all the developed roads. So it's about 2/3 of the way to the city limits, 1,200 feet. So we're well past everything that's developed already. One of the reasons we didn't go all the way to the city limits is just the cost. To the city became much greater when you run out of grant funds to keep going. And we have a low area in there that'll be really expensive to go through, that all our stormwater goes through, that we'll have to rebuild in that section.
Because I know Cromwell Township's very interested in, I think, going all the way to the section line, I think.
The entire mile.
Yeah.
It's right, because it would match it back up to where it's paved by the county road up there. You know, the county's paved east and west, so
Right.
this is getting toward that pavement.
Could we work Cromwell Township in with that, or is this just a city thing here that?
I would think
I
there
know
could
it's a
be
little
some
bit
sort of
late
a,
now.
you know, I could ask, City Hall and see if they'd want to do a joint application with the township and include it in the entire mile. Right now, Lee says at about 1,200 feet,
It's 1,200 feet.
so it's about a quarter mile right now. We got 3/4 of a mile remaining, I guess.
Yeah, grant cap, I believe it's
It's
700.
750.
Yeah, 750, so, and I think Holly, your project pretty much eats up most of that.
Yes.
So anything above that would.
You'd have to have Cromwell Township do on their own.
Exactly,
own.
yeah, that would be the.
All right.
I think we could continue those discussions. I would hate to see it delay Holly's application.
No, yeah, no.
Yeah, and I think the time is about to expire to even get the applications in, right?
Well, and to get a sponsorship from this board too, so if Cromwell was going to do a separate, that we would have to have a sponsorship resolution approved today, essentially.
Well, no, not if it's that far, it's just, I was just wondering how far this one was taking it.
Sure.
Whether it was going into the township area at all. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Brian.
before you approve it, I see the resolution says 2,100 feet, and I believe Lisa said it was 1,250.
I said it incorrectly. 2,100
Oh, it
is
is.
the correct number.
Okay, very good. And then the resolution is correct, thank you.
All right, very good. We have 3 separate resolutions here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Back to the whole thing, the 2,100, now that's more than a quarter of a mile, you said a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, I think one of the two were transposed. It's actually 2,100, not 1,200.
Okay, but 2,100 feet's getting.
Almost
it's-
half
It's
mile.
over more than a quarter of a mile.
Yeah,
isn't it?
almost half mile.
I do have a map, I don't know if that's before.
Well, I was just wondering how far north it, whether,
Dave?
So there's the half mile line, so it's
well, it's not in,
real close to that half mile.
okay. Thank you, Liz.
All right, we have 3 resolutions.
We need 3 separate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We can just move, start with 2017-44.
Make a motion to approve, excuse me, Resolution 2017-44 for the city of Saban.
Second.
We have a second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017-45 for the city of Holly.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Motion to approve resolution 2017-46.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Oakbrook Township resolution. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. All right, and then we have the erosion and sediment.
Yeah, we talked about this at our highway committee a little bit, and this has a lot to do with our MS4 permit that we've been kind of ongoing working on for about the last 10 years or so. When Nathan was here, he worked on an ordinance with Jenny, our attorney, and they did basically filled in all the gaps that the MPCA wanted us to fill in. In reading through that, there was one piece that the county didn't have, but so the city and the county are pretty much doing the same thing in the urbanized area, but they've got their jurisdictional roadways and waterways, ditches and storm sewers, and we have ours. And the only thing we really have left remaining is this erosion and sediment control permit. And Eric pretty much we have the exact same form that they have, so we thought it would be consistent with what developers and residential people will be filling out on city streets. So this sediment erosion control permit, it's required by our MPCA requirements, our MS4 document. The cost for the permit, I guess, that would be the one thing that we should, approve the permit and then set the costs. $20 per 1 acre of disturbance, plus $10 for each additional acre, which does copy this City of Moorhead's exact permit and cost. Eric, is there anything I missed on that?
No, that's basically it. And this permit would, like Dave mentioned, just to emphasize, it only applies within the urbanized area, which roughly extends out to about 336, and then up to Oakport, and then down to about Cassatt 12. So basically just around the city of Moorhead. And yeah, it only applies if they disturb an acre or more. So.
I have a question in regards to the fee history. Have we always mirrored Moorhead?
In most cases, we do. I'm glad you mentioned that because you might be wondering why we are bringing this now, even though we had the ordinance probably 2 or 3 years ago. We really haven't had a situation where we've had a need for this on our properties. Most of the development is on city streets and things, but we do actually have one that would apply for this. Is that?
Yeah, we do. Planning and zoning knows of at least one property that would require this that's in the urbanized area but outside the city.
Do you know what the fee history has been? Has it been consistently the same?
For
Well, the 20 per 1 acre disturbance plus 10?
So the city, or this MS4 thing is pretty new, so the county really never had this permit before. And I don't know how long the city's has been in effect, I guess I don't know their history, but this is their current fee.
Okay, and my question just probably was stemmed to see if this is a fee that's been in existence for a long time and we just haven't increased it as costs have increased.
Yeah, I'm guessing it went into effect for the city of Moorhead somewhere between 5 and 7 years, maybe not quite that far. They've got a separate staff just for this kind of work. So I know when Nathan was working with her, that was a main part of her job, and so seemed like they were bounds ahead of us because they just, plus, they've got more city streets, they've got more storm sewers and outfalls. The county's only got a few outfalls, I think, and we have to inspect 25 or 30% of those outfalls every year as part of our MS4. So I would guess it's probably been in place 5 to 7 years, something like that. And we did talk quite a bit about that cost a little bit at Highway Tracking Committee. It does seem extremely low, you know. If you have to drive out there and take a look at property once and maybe go back when it's done, you're gonna easily spend more than $20, but just didn't know if we really felt comfortable going above and beyond what the city charges for the same exact thing. We thought maybe we could, you know, and if we only have 1 or 2 a year, maybe it's not that big a deal. But
Yeah, I think that's where we were at on this, because it was, we don't know how many there are gonna be. The likelihood of having a lot of them is nothing, and then,
Right.
and once we get a little history, and if we find out if the idea is to make sure that we recoup our costs, but not, we don't need to make money on it either. So.
And my question is, if you just have to drive across the street in downtown Moorhead to check out what that is, it's
You're
different
right.
than driving all the way out to 336 staff
Yeah,
time.
we're up
so.
to Ulen or something like that.
Right, I just want to make sure that our fee adequately reflects what the cost is, and, you know, I'm not quite sure if it will, but I think we can evaluate that.
Yep, that was kind of our plan.
Good starting point, yeah.
All right,
I'll move to approve the fee.
all right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carried. All right, Dave, anything else for us?
No, I don't think so. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we have a request to fill a vacancy for a full-time corrections officer. Julie, good morning.
Morning. I have a full-time officer who's moving down to variable hour, so I'm requesting that we replace her position with a full-time corrections officer, effective mid-December here, so,
This is needed to,
for the maintain our current staffing plan. There'll be some cost savings, about $1,300 with the new position.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
motion is second.
I just have a question. This isn't something you could fill with a three-quarter time
No,
because of,
our staffing plan requires so many full-time employees, and this is a full-time employee.
And that's,
Shift work too, on top of it.
that's kind of part of the license for the
Right.
DOC.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. Rhonda, you have another vacancy.
Good morning. Yes,
Morning.
thank you for adding this as an agenda item. We got a resignation yesterday for one of our financial workers again. She's going to go into real estate, right?
Real estate,
Real
yes.
estate, so we are looking to fill her position. She is a financial worker in Larry's unit, administering the state and federal programs. Her position does receive the 50% federal financial participation. And we, as you know, have come before you 4 times since the beginning or mid-October with resignations in that unit. We're losing a lot of expertise and longevity, and so we're struggling and really need to fill the position.
I'll move to approve position.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? And your request is to backfill as well, according to your...
Yes, please.
That agrees with your second. Right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
well, don't retire right away.
That's right.
I'm not going nowhere.
All right, we'll go back to committee reports. Commissioner Wayland.
Let's see, I just had, we had a detention advisory, Kevin and Brian and Steve and I, about the expansion on the detention center, so we're still working on that issue. We had an LEC in jail meeting and update yesterday, and I think everybody can see everything is going well there and is on schedule or ahead of schedule, and both in terms of the work and the cost of the project. So that's good news. I think everything is going well. And then the only other thing, a week from this Friday on December 8th is the Veteran Service holiday party for the volunteers, so at the VFW, if anybody can come, it's at 5 o'clock. And I think you're supposed to let Jennifer at the Veteran Service Office know if you're able to attend. So, a week from Friday, yeah. On the
Where's that
8th,
at?
At the VFW.
All right.
That was it for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Gross?
And highway tracking last week, and we discussed most of it already. The local road improvement program, which we just approved here, and then also the permit fee. I guess we discussed already the permit fee, the $20. It was that we don't get that many of those permits, and that's why we decided to keep the permit fee where it was at. Other things we discussed was the Linden project update. That's been going back and forth from 2018 to 2019, and now it's been set for 2018 again. So it looks like we're going to go ahead with that next year. Another thing we discussed there was they had some unused dollars, and they're going to transfer them around into the general fund there. That was it for that meeting. Then I had, Personnel Issues Committee had a lot of discussion on payout on vacation time. There's no decision made on that yet, and we're just going to continue that discussion after a little bit more review. That was my meetings.
I didn't have anything.
Right, I had the Personal Issues Committee and the Highway Tracking Committee last week on Tuesday, and I think Commissioner Gross pretty much fully explained what went on with those. And we did have a juvenile detention meeting, kind of just going over some of these expansion options and costs and so on and so forth. And then yesterday we had the jail construction meeting, and as Commissioner Whalen said, that's all going very well. So far there's nothing concerned as far as time-wise that's putting any delays on anything. So, and then I do want to ask Brian, what's our intentions for this, for our levy, for finalizing the levy?
Well, I'm doing a levy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe so.
When's our plan to discuss that?
Probably, we just talked about that when we put it on the schedule, and probably the middle of December is when we'll place it on the agenda.
I think we should put it, well, let's see, we meet next Thursday, don't we?
Yes.
Do we have a lot on the agenda for that day? I think we should put it on the agenda just to talk a little bit about it. Not to decide the final, but I think we need to have a discussion on it.
Okay, budget discussion then, is what you're saying?
Yes.
For the 7th, that'd be that Thursday
That
afternoon?
evening.
Yeah, I think we meet at 5.
Yes.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think we can put that on there to have a discussion on that. Okay. Ryan, do you want to give your report?
Sure. Many of the meetings, it was a short week last week with the Thanksgiving holiday in there. The PIC has already been discussed, highway tracking has been discussed, juvenile detention meeting's been discussed. We had a meeting, I think that was talked about already too, discussion of setting up a meeting with Cass County to further the discussion of the juvenile agreement, and we're doing that this afternoon at 1 o'clock, just a reminder. We had new hire orientation yesterday, and we had seven in there, which was quite a large group. The construction meeting has already been talked about, nothing really new on that. It's pretty nice. In fact, yesterday, I think it was about a half-hour, 45-minute meeting, mostly just an update, and things are really going smoothly, I think. So lots of progress. And in conjunction with that, I forwarded that email yesterday for a tour of the jail or the new correctional facility and law enforcement center for Friday morning at 10 o'clock, and I suppose we need to really limit that to 2 commissioners. So I know I've heard back from from 2. One is not available, and the other one is interested in attending. So, And we can certainly do other tours
Yeah.
at too, so, if you'd like to go through it, and they've got some of the new cell compartments set up in there and things, so it might be kind of interesting to look at one of these days, so I guess keep that in mind. The architect and construction engineers and Steve and Lori and I met yesterday afternoon after the board meeting to talk about some refining of the juvenile center, so we'll be making some adjustments there very soon, and we'll be bringing you up to date on that. I guess it's next week is the AMC conference. I do not plan to attend, nor did I attend my fall conference for it. And, I guess just as a note, that runs about $800 to $1,000 when you add in mileage, so trying to cut down on expenses wherever we can in regards to central administration, so unless you have different feelings there for me. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Very good. All right. Anything else, Board? All right, we will be adjourned.